Hello everyone, my name is Austin Morris and today I'll be discussing the Challenger Space Shuttle launch of 1986. Now for those of you that don't know, this launch actually failed, which caused all 7 of its passengers to die. This was in part due to the failure of the rocket boosters. The field joints allowed gases to escape and caused the rocket boosters to explode, which was also a cause of low temperatures that was not allowing the O-rings in those joints to work properly. Also, management decisions allowed for poor communication between upper and lower division management as well as the engineers, which caused the launch to continue despite concerns by its engineers. Now, what NASA could have done differently in this is pay more attention to the warnings from the engineers. They were the ones that knew the problems, they were expressing their problems, and actually had an hour-long meeting explaining in great detail why the launch should not happen. Unfortunately, however, they continued with the launch despite these concerns due to what they call insufficient information to prove the unsafety of it. But the way that works in engineering is that it's also, you should be able to prove that it's safe, which is how NASA has worked in the past, but due to pressures for economic and political reasons to keep their budget, they pressed forward because the launch was already delayed a couple days. What they could have done, though, is heed the warnings, like I said earlier, and wait for the temperatures to increase to the point where there was actually tests done and ensured the safety of all those on board. Not to mention the successful launch, which, yes, it would have been a day or two later, but it would have ended up being the best choice of action for them. Now, what Boisley could have done, he was an engineer for Morton Thinkall. I don't think he could have really done much more different. He was already expressing his concerns to multiple levels of management. He kept being shut down. He'd go over the head of his immediate supervisor, go up to a higher level supervisor. But when it came down to it, the top brass basically told all of his managers to just make a decision and we're pretty much going to launch this. We can't afford to delay the launch. Short of possibly, sabotaging the launch, he probably couldn't have done much. And who knows, they might have attributed a failure to him if he attempted to sabotage the launch. This comes in play for a lot of ethical decisions in engineering. I know that for engineers, you want to be sure, but you also don't want to be too safe. If you look at it from a car standpoint, they put speed limits on the roads. Now, everybody gets into car crashes from time to time and people die. And it's like, well, how come people are dying all the time? It's like, why don't you just make the speed limit down to 5 miles an hour? It's like, even if people get in a crash at 5 miles an hour, the chances of somebody dying are extremely low. So nobody would die if everybody was going 5 miles an hour. But it's also a matter of time and economics. It's like that just defeats the purposes of owning a car in the first place. Most people walk at a pace about 3 miles an hour. They can avoid traffic jams and all that sorts and get to work probably about the same time as if they drove their car. So it makes no sense to own a car if the speed limit is only 5 miles an hour. And it's this balance that you need to get between risk and safety as well as time and money that keeps pushing it towards whether or not a technology is sustainable and safe. And as this deals with the Space Challenger launch, hindsight's 2020. Yes, they shouldn't have launched, but at the same time, it's like, how great were the chances of this failure? Was it just a 1 in a million chance, or did they actually should not have launched? I say they shouldn't have launched, but like I said, hindsight's 2020.